Battery's low on my phone as usual. Brilliant. Live on LinkedIn. Excellent. So we are going to do how to create a fat loss plan in 4 steps. It's probably going to be 4 steps, to be fair. So if you're somebody that wants to lose weight, doesn't want to wing it, or has winged it in the past, or has followed fad diets in the past, and you're thinking to yourself, I really want to lose weight and I want to do it in a way that's not horrible and I want to keep the weight off, then that's what we're going to cover here. That's what I do with clients. Been doing that for, this will be nearly 20 years I've been doing this, so I know a thing or two about writing diet plans. If you don't follow me, those of you that are on TikTok, let's have a look at this banner for LinkedIn. I actually want to edit that because we're going to do it in 4 steps. If you've got questions, ask questions and I'll come back to them. But realistically, this is really just a way of you learning how I set up nutrition plans for the clients I work with. And those who don't know me, I work with just normal guys. None of my clients are bodybuilders, or none of my clients are fitness models. Some of them look like they could be fitness models, and some of them look like they could be bodybuilders, but they're just normal dudes in the sense of most of my clients are, I typically work with men that are over 40. I've got clients that are over 60. They have jobs and kids, and they're trying to find the balance of how do I look and feel good while balancing a social life, business travel, work events, a social life, birthdays, all the usual stuff. So if you're somebody that is, if that sounds like you, if you're just a normal dude that wants to get in shape, that's what we're going to cover today, because there needs to be an element of kind of consistency and sustainability to this nutrition plan. So how do we create a nutrition plan that is tailored to your goals, which I am going to assume is fat loss? It won't change much if it's muscle building, but when I say muscle building, I mean as a primary goal. Most of you probably want to lose fat and build muscle, which can be done. But if you want to lose fat, you want it to be sustainable, you want to be able to eat the foods that you like, and you don't want to get 2 or 3 weeks in and think to yourself, fuck it, this is ridiculous. That's what we're going to cover today. Basically what I do with clients. So step number 1, I would write this down. I don't know if on LinkedIn it will be there forever. I don't know if TikTok keeps these lives up, although I'll probably snip it down. Step 1, calculate your calorie intake. This is so important, because for those of you who get this wrong, men fall into 2 categories here. And I'm obviously looking at two different screens. If I'm looking at this one or this one, that's fine. Men fall into two different categories here. The guys that just drop calories too low and slash it, extreme dieting, they try to rush it and they get hungry. And category 2 are the guys that don't think calories are important because they're just, quote, eating well. Doesn't matter if you're eating well or not, your calories are important. So your step 1, the only way you can create a nutrition plan, whether or not you're going to track it on MyFitnessPal, you're going to do it by portion sizes, it doesn't matter what you do. The first step in creating a fat loss plan is knowing how many calories you need per day. I would go on and say that you should then figure out how many calories you need over the week, because I might come back to this, but you can have an average. So you can have days that are higher and lower. That works very well if you've got business meetings or parties or a date night and you want to have a bit more one day and you want to kind of restrict a little bit the other day. How do you do this? Doesn't really matter what you do. Go to Google, type in BMR calculator or calorie calculator, find one, and just remember it's just going to be a good start point. It might not be fucking perfect. It won't know. Some of you need fewer calories and it'll work out. Some of you need more. My wife is only about 8 stone at the moment, pretty shredded, and she's maintaining her weight on well over 2,500 calories. That is absurd. The calculator would never give her that. If she came to me as a client, based on the maths that I use, I'd probably want her to be on 1,200 or something. So calculate your calories with Google, but say to yourself, this is just the start point. These are the calories I'm I'm going to follow. This is the same with everything in fitness. Choose a plan, follow it, assess the results. So step 1, ensure you know how many calories you need per day. Google will give you that. Don't assume it's going to be perfect. Step number 2, this one's a little bit easier. I can kind of give you the idea for this. It's just calculate how much protein you need. If you don't eat enough protein, here's what happens. The diet typically isn't going to be very, very filling. And I would say most of the men that I work with are quite shocked when they try to consume the protein I want them to, because quite often, some of these guys are only hitting 50, 60, 70 grams a day. I'll often say to them, you need 150, 200. If they're bigger dudes, they may need more than 200 grams. I can't show you the picture. One of the guys messaged me yesterday. He's been doing the diet plan for a week. And I said, how full are you? And he was like, fucking full. I can't eat anything else. That is what I want you to have from a nutrition plan when you're trying to lose weight, because if you're hungry all the time, you will struggle. I can't say that you won't be hungry forever. But if you've got 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 pounds to lose, you shouldn't be hungry after 1 or 2 days. I remember seeing a LinkedIn post where it was a woman, but she was complaining about being starving on her weight loss plan after 2 days. And if you are hungry after 1 or 2 days, you have done something wrong. Typically, calories probably aren't right, and you probably aren't eating enough protein. How much do you need? 1 gram per pound is probably enough. If you have more weight to lose, if you have 50, 60, 100 pounds to lose, if you're a bigger dude, like you're 300 pounds, you're not going to have 300 grams of protein. Just go with what you think your weight roughly needs to be at the end. So you might be 300 pounds, but you might say, well, I'm only 5'6". If I was 300 pounds, I would know I need to come back down sub 200. I would start my protein lower. So you've got calories set and you've got protein set. At that point, some of you will be thinking, well, what about fat and carbs? You know, some of you will be thinking, I need to do a low carb diet. Some of you will be thinking that's mandatory. I have to do the ketogenic diet. I have to have 0 carbs. That isn't the case. If you remember, I want you to remember all of this, but one thing you have to remember is that you will, if everything is equal, low carb diets typically work the same as high carb diets over a long period. In the short term, people that do the ketogenic diet, the low carb diet will lose more weight initially because of the water loss. But over time, it doesn't really matter. And that is kind of me saying to you, don't worry about it so much. Don't worry about it. Because what I don't want you to do is I don't want you to burden yourself with another rule. I don't want you to burden yourself with this idea that it has to be a low carb diet. Because most of us don't want to do a low carb diet or a 0 carb diet. The amount of people that tell me they do keto, that they've done the ketogenic diet and hated it, but they did it because they thought it was the best, is unreal. Like, bear in mind, I've been coaching people since I was for 19 years. I remember when the Atkins diet first came out. I remember thinking it was the best thing ever. So, calculate your calories. Give yourself an average for every day. You may have to change. Step number 2 in your diet plan is calculate protein intake. 1 gram per pound will probably do it. Some might want to go a bit higher, some might a bit lower. But if you do that, if you go 1 gram per pound, a couple of grams per kilo, right. So those are the benefits of the higher protein. Probably more likely going to gain or build more muscle. You're definitely going to be fuller, which means you won't go over the calories as much. You won't crave as much, and therefore you won't cock it up as much. And you will get more of the calories that you consume get used in digestion, essentially, is the best way to look at it. So you eat X amount of calories, and more of them just don't get used. They can't be stored as body fat. Protein is very, very difficult to store as fat. It really is very challenging. So go high on the protein if you can. The downside to going too high is as your protein comes up, fats and carbs have to come down. If that's a preference to you, that's cool. Find a balance. So there's your step 1 and step 2. Like, if you came to me as a client, what do I need? What do I need to give them? Well, I need to tell them how many calories they need, and I need to tell them how much protein. Fats and carbs will fill the rest of the gap here. And that's easy to do. I'll come back to that in step number 4. Step number 3 is really simple. It's select healthy foods. And the best thing you can do is, if you're not well versed in nutrition, and sometimes it surprises me, but you know, a lot of men don't really know what a good protein source is, for example, or a good carbohydrate source or a good fat source. I remember a few years ago a client saying to me, like, he said to me something like, I can get my protein from fruit, right? And I was like, no, you can't get your protein from fruit. You're going to get carbohydrates from fruit. So step number 3 is go to Google and just simply put in a search like best protein sources or best healthy carb sources, best healthy fat sources. You know, they're going to be things like low-fat chicken, low-fat beef, avocado, olive oil, you know, fruit, veg, low-fat dairy. I'm saying low-fat because you save more calories. You don't have to necessarily have low-fat. What you want to do is go into Google and get these lists and create a list or a spreadsheet. I would have it on a spreadsheet. I'd write it down of 5 to 10, probably won't even be that many, but 5 to 10 sources of protein, fats, and carbs that you enjoy eating. That's crucial because if you don't like the foods, which most of you, this is one of the mistakes a lot of you do, you choose diets that you bloody hate, and therefore you can only stick to them for a couple of days. I need you to look. You need to be able to sustain a diet long enough to achieve your goal, which might take 3, 6, 12 months. You know, I've got a guy that's lost 5 stone, taking us just shy of a year. But he still has to keep the weight off. He can't just at that point say, I'm done with this now. I'll go back to how I was, which is not what a lot of you do. So we need to have an element of enjoy, like the diet needs to be enjoyable. And yes, we would all love to, most of us would probably, a lot of us would like to live off chocolate and pizzas and stuff, and they can be part of your plan and I come back to that. But you still need to have an idea of, okay, when I look in the fridge or when I go to a restaurant, especially if you're somebody that, a lot of my clients are business owners, they eat out a lot. You've got a social life and you go out frequently. Once now and again, it's not as bad. If you're someone who goes out frequently, you've got kids, you want to do date nights, all these things, you need to be able to kind of look at the menu or look in the fridge and go, right, I'm going to create the meal based on these choices. Then what you've got is a list of things that you can go to, and you can buy them. You can have them in the fridge. You can have them like given to you at restaurants. So there's step number 3. Create a list of fats, carbs, protein. Choose which one's going to be your favorite. Buy them, stock up on them, know what they are. Very simple so far. Like there's none of this has been like go low carb, starve yourself, you know, work on your willpower. It's just easy stuff so far, really simple. So that's step number 3. Once you've got this, you've got basically numbers now. You've got a number of calories and you've got a number of grams of protein and you've kind of got a list of foods. At that point, you now have to convert those numbers into meals. That's where MyFitnessPal comes in really handy. I did a video on this, so if you'll follow me on TikTok, I may have posted it on LinkedIn, I don't know. But I did a kind of brief video on how I use MyFitnessPal to do this. But essentially what you need to do is then say to yourself, okay, how do I create meals that fit these macros? Or how by the end of this day, do I make sure that I've adequately consumed this many calories and this much protein? How do I get to the end of the day and not be 1,000 calories over? How do I get to the end of the day and be 100 grams under with protein? This is common. Well, you've got your list of foods. You choose a meal. So say you wake up and you're like, I want to think of my breakfast. What do I want for breakfast? You go to your list of foods and you choose a protein source, a fat source, and a carb source, and then you pop it into MyFitnessPal and you just use MyFitnessPal to give you the numbers. Simple as that. It'll take a bit of trial and error because you won't know, but you go into MyFitnessPal and you might say, right, I've chosen to have porridge oats, whey protein, nuts and seeds. You might make like a smoothie for breakfast because it's simple and easy. Put it to MyFitnessPal, look at the numbers. You might have to adjust it. It's fine. You can, you need to learn, is it 1 scoop or 2 scoops away? Is it 50 grams of oats? Is it 75? Is it a handful of blueberries? Is it X amount of nuts? So that's what you need. Put it in MyFitnessPal. And then what you've got is an idea of what you've eaten. You can save that meal make a note of it so that every time you have that for breakfast, you can just eat it again. And then over the course of the day, you can just make sure that every time you eat, that you hit the numbers, you know, by the end of the day. And if you do that in advance, or if you go to a restaurant, you can just scan it in. MyFitnessPal has, I'm saying MyFitnessPal, there are other apps, but MyFitnessPal allows you to scan a barcode, search for it in the database, or just enter it manually. And there's your diet plan. Notice how I haven't said you can't eat after a certain time. You have to eat 6 meals a day. You can't eat chocolate or sweets. If you want to have a treat every day, just take 5 to 10% of those calories and just have a treat. Like, just learn to have one small chocolate bar or a couple of biscuits, and then just get on with your day. So there's your diet plan. You might say, what's the next step? The next step would be assessing it and just making sure that it works, because that is just your start plan. But essentially, all you've done in a step-by-step form is calculate your calories, calculate your protein, learn what are good food choices for protein, fats, and carbs, and then just created meals that allow you to hit those numbers. And it really isn't any more complicated than that. I wish it was. Wish I could give you some magic. I wish there was something more magical about it, but it really isn't. The reason why a lot of you are overweight is because you choose to do diets that are fucking awful. Like, you make yourself too hungry. You make them too boring because you think certain foods are good and bad, so you just stick to the same meals every day, or you're too lazy to kind of prepare meals, so you fall into the trap of every meal is chicken and rice. You need to understand that this is about a long-term lifestyle. And one of the cool things about doing this after a while is you soon start to learn that the portion size is what they have to be. You can start tracking a little bit. You also, if you track at home for long enough, you'll start to learn what it looks like by eye. So when you go into a restaurant, most of you know that when you go into a restaurant, you shouldn't have a pizza and the starter and a dessert. But still, having an understanding of kind of portion sizes is great. So there's your 4 steps for creating a meal plan. Calories, protein, food choices, create meals. Very simple. Hopefully that helps. Like I said, this is what I do. I've been doing it for 19 years. So follow me if you're kind of interested in kind of what I would say is sustainable fitness. Like, I'm not giving out advice that's going to make people ready for a bodybuilding stage. That being said, some of my clients are in their 50s and 60s with 6-pack, so clearly it works. But the point is, it's about it being manageable and sustainable, so you can actually achieve your goals long term. Hopefully that helps. You know what to do. Follow me if you want to see more like this. All right, LinkedIn, I'm done. There was some comments. I'm going to quickly do these comments before I've stopped TikTok now. This is awesome advice. Loving it, Phil. Cheers, Joe. I know you're probably not watching now. This is spot on. Best fitness coach, Phil. That's a LinkedIn user. So I don't actually know. I can show you. I can show you the. Yeah, there it is, Joe. You've come up on the live. So you must have used StreamYard because it will allow your face to come up. This one, LinkedIn user. I have no idea who you are, but thank you. You know what to do if you are struggling with your weight loss and your fitness, and you are like, I just want a strategy that isn't fucking ridiculous. Send me a message. We'll have a chat.